These are the 10 best mature rated JRPGs, according to me. As I was putting this list together, I was really surprised about which games weren't rated M that I was certain would be, and which game was rated M that I didn't expect to be. Make sure to watch until the end to see that surprise. And as a bit of a warning, this video is about mature rated games, so maybe don't watch this one at work or with your kiddos. I won't be showing anything too graphic, but hey, you can never be too safe. Before we dive into the video, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Omni Heroes. In this casual strategy RPG, you'll build a force of gorgeous Valkyries and other heroes to battle against demonic forces. You have over 100 characters in the game to build your ultimate team comps of 5. Omni Heroes X Factor is its unique synergy system. Depending on your team comp's makeup, you can create 17 different kinds of synergies to give you a unique advantage in battle. Whether battling through the game's PvE campaign or other players around the world in the PvP mode, the synergy system can always give you an edge. Something else I really dig about Omni Heroes is that you can get to know your Valkyries in deeper ways. You can interact with them outside of battles, allowing you to unleash their charisma and unlock new character skins. Personally, I'm an Elune guy. Her design and personality are super cute, plus she can put some nasty defense reducing debuffs on enemies that come in handy in combat. Click the link in the description to download Omni Heroes and claim 777 free summons through Valkyrie's bestowal right away. Brace yourselves for an incredible start, as in the first week, you'll secure a minimum of 5 legendary heroes. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to omniheroesgame.com and learn more today. Thanks once again to Omni Heroes for sponsoring this video, and now on to the video. Now, the first game on this list is also the oldest one, and that is Parasite Eve. This is one of the very few horror JRPGs, and it certainly earns its genre and its M rating. Right from the very beginning, there's some pretty gruesome transformations and deaths. I mean, just look at some of this stuff. The rating also says sexual themes, which I guess refers to the final boss's final form, but I'll just leave that for you to look at for yourself. That aside, Parasite Eve is a fantastic RPG. You play as Aya Brea, a New York City Police Department rookie. After the explosive opening, you're trying to investigate what happened and trying to get to the bottom of this bizarre mystery. Throughout the game, you'll be exploring New York City, investigating different areas, learning more about Eve and her plot. The game also has some really unique combat. While it is sort of turn-based, you also have this ability to kind of move around the battle arena and need to be within certain distances of certain enemies depending on your attack. You can also acquire quite the arsenal of weapons through the game, from handguns to automatic weapons. It's also relatively short. You can probably beat it in about 10 hours or less. And if you haven't played this game, I would definitely check it out. It's a good one. Like the rest of the games in the Yakuza series, Like a Dragon was given an M rating for a whole variety of reasons. Everything from language, alcohol use, extreme violence, and some sexual themes. One particular chapter has you working at a brothel. Don't get too excited, you won't see anything spicy. There's even one moment where you're escorting a naked guy, only covered by some sudsy bubbles. Hello. The game on its own was fantastic though, and was also a pretty radical shift for the series. It went from real-time action to turn-based combat. You also had a brand new protagonist in Ichiban Kasuga. He's much more laid-back, fun-loving, and just wants to be a Dragon Quest hero, literally. It's also a great world to explore, full of fun side activities, with some of my favorites being the can collecting minigame and the confectionery management minigame. They were both just super addictive. As for the combat, while it could be a little grindy at times, it was fun, and you had this ability to get new jobs and different attacks, and there was also a bunch of cool ways to get to know your team at the different bars or just different things throughout the story. This is definitely one of my favorite entries in the series, and I'm looking forward to playing the follow-up in early 2024. Now, you guys know I love Persona, but I'm not really the biggest Shin Megami Tensei fan. That said, I still enjoyed 5 quite a bit. I loved its more open design with a better sense of exploration. You can kind of climb up things, you could jump around, it just felt much more open. It also had a great continuation of the press turn combat system, where if you hit a weakness, you could have a follow-up and you could do big attacks. It was great, although it could result in some pretty annoying cheap deaths at times. It also had a pretty compelling story, I just wish there was more of it. Also, this game definitely deserves to be ported off the Switch for better resolution and frame rates. Hopefully Alice can make that happen sometime in the near future. Now, why is it M rated? Well, it should be fairly obvious if you know anything about the SMT series. Obviously, a lot of violence and language, and of course there's demons that have some exposed bits. And of course there's Mara, who's just, well, do I really have to say it? And some of the demon descriptions can get pretty spicy. This was probably one of the least surprising franchises to make it on the list, but it's a great one nonetheless, and well deserving of a spot. Oh boy, here we have a game that's pretty controversial on my channel, although the more that the game's been out in the wild and people have been finishing it, my take may not be such an outlier anymore. Regardless, it was the first mainline entry to receive an M rating, with Final Fantasy Type 0 to be the very first Final Fantasy period to receive an M rating. And let me tell you, 16 definitely earns the M rating. There's tons of explicit violence, pretty harsh language, and it probably would have earned an M rating with that alone. However, there's a pretty surprising amount of implied sexual scenes with characters lying naked together, although they never actually show anything outside of some booties. And as for the game itself, there are plenty of aspects that I enjoyed from it. The combat is fantastic with its real-time aspect and all the different icons you can kind of mix and match to give yourself some really cool, unique abilities. The icon battles themselves are absolutely epic. The quality of the story cutscenes were great, if not a little overindulgent, and in fact, it felt like it dragged at times. On the flip side, there was a serious lack of RPG elements that kind of bummed me out, and while I didn't initially love its grim tone, I feel like if I replayed it now, it probably wouldn't have bothered me as much. It's certainly a well-made but flawed game. Hopefully they can come back stronger with 17. Here with Persona 3, we have a really interesting entry on the list. Its reason for it being M rating is kind of a no-brainer. Literally. Characters shoot themselves in the head to summon their persona. Pretty dang grim and violent. There's also lots of language, some sexual themes as well. Probably the darkest of the 3 modern Persona games. And I don't want to get into too many details that might spoil the game because of the remake right around the corner, so if you want to know more, I would just save yourself for that version. Now, of the 3 modern Persona games, it's probably the least revered for a few reasons. One of the main reasons being Tartarus. It's just a big, tall tower. As you explore it, it's pretty much the same no matter where you go. It doesn't really mix things up a bit. And also, you can't control your party members outside of the portable version. But then on the portable version, you get a compromised experience because of the PSP's limitation. You're basically a dot moving around the environment, which is not great. And unfortunately, there's no real definitive version of Persona 3, but it's still a hell of a good game. And there's something to be said for it being the origin of the modern Persona formula, where you split your time between being a high school student and dungeon crawling, fighting off nightmarish fiends. I still love this formula. It's super addictive. Even though it's not as good as 4 and 5, it still has to be on the list. And with Reload coming next year, I'm super curious to see exactly what they change, what they keep the same, and see what they do with it, because I feel like this game definitely deserves a remake and I think would be well suited for it. Like a Dragon Ishin was one of my biggest surprises of 2023. I kind of just bought it on a whim because I was in between games and I heard good things about it, and as I played it, I just fell in love with it. I love this setting and this era. It's something I really can't get enough of. There's also a cool variety of combat styles, from using a katana, a katana and a gun, and some other stuff. And of course, you have those awesome mini games like karaoke. Farming was really fun, but probably my absolute favorite was fishing. I don't know why, there was just something addictive about it. And this will probably be one of my top 5 games at the end of the year, unless the second half of 2023 just churns out a bunch of bangers, which, hey, I'd be happy with that. Now, why was it M rated? Pretty standard stuff. You know, you have violence, language, there was some sexually suggestive moments, and plenty of drinking. This is probably one of the least egregious games on the whole list in terms of its mature rating. That said, it's still a fantastic game, and I hope they do another spin-off in this era somehow, because I would absolutely love that. Now, it's been a hot minute since I've played Nier Automata, but man, is this game ever awesome. Of course, it starts with that top-tier action from Platinum Games. It's super fast, flashy, buttery smooth, and just fun as heck. Of the 3 playable characters, 2B probably feels the best to play with. Not to mention the incredible score from composer Keiichi Okabe, an incredibly grim yet compelling tale with these androids trying to find meaning in their own existence. And from top to bottom, it's just an excellent game no matter which way you slice it, including some of those weird extra endings that I loved finding on accident. Now, in terms of its M rating, it's pretty obvious for stuff like language and violence, even though you're fighting mostly robots and not humans. And of course, you do get a pretty clear view of 2B's booty if you do her self-destruction move. I know they did the Nier Replicant remake, but I'm kind of shocked they haven't gone back to do a Nier Automata sequel yet. I'm sure it's only a matter of time, so I'm looking forward to that game if eventually they do it. And if you haven't played this one already, man, you're missing out. Of course, we couldn't do this list right without Persona 5. It's one of the greatest JRPGs ever made and also has a ton of moments throughout the game that give it its M rating. This one might get a little spoilery, so skip ahead to the timestamp on the screen if you haven't played Persona 5 already. Like everything on this list, there's definitely a lot of violence and a lot of language prominent throughout. There's also a lot of scantily clad women throughout the game, including some weirdly implied grooming with the volleyball coach that creeps me out every time I play through that section. It also just straight up shows a girl attempting suicide, which absolutely absolutely left my jaw on the floor the first time I saw it, as well as a scene where it shows Akechi shooting Joker right in the freaking head. Just some insane stuff that more than warrants its M rating. And while some of this stuff that they show might feel a little egregious and over the top, I think it really drives home some of the themes they're trying to get through in the story. Certainly not for the faint of heart, but I think it was pretty effective. Now, all the mature scenes aside, it's just a fantastic game. It has that traditional Persona loop of dungeon crawling and living your life as a high school student, and it really has never been better. Here we have handcrafted dungeons instead of randomly generated ones, tons of characters and new side activities, of course that incredible combat system, and a story that, while it has a few hiccups, will keep you playing non-stop until the very end, even though it's 100 hours long. If you're somehow watching this video and you haven't played Persona 5 yet, then man, you know what you need to do after finishing this video. As I was putting this list together, I was totally shocked to learn that Chained Echoes was rated M. Especially considering it's a pixel art game, you really have to do something special to earn that rating. When I went to the ESRB's website, the game didn't even show up, which was super weird because it's a pretty new game, so I had to really dig to figure out why people thought this game got an M rating. Later in the game, there are some pretty sexually suggestive moments, and although it never shows anything, I guess that coupled with some strong language pushed it into the M rating category. Now, if you've been on this channel for any amount of time recently, you'll know that I absolutely love this game for so many reasons. Of course, it's got a gorgeous pixel art with some beautiful colors, great details and animation, and it's simply a step above most 16-bit throwbacks. But for me, I think it's all about that combat system. You have a turn-based combat system with a party of 4, and what really works for it is the overdrive system. Here you'll do moves and you're trying to stay within this little green bar, and as you're in that green bar, you can do more damage, take less damage, and abilities cost less. So it's not just about using your most powerful attacks, you have to be a little bit more thoughtful. And just when I thought turn-based JRPGs had run out of fresh ideas, here comes Chained Echoes. And one thing that I really feel like not enough people talk about when it comes to this game is the design. How it's structured, how it pulls you through the world, how it engages you. I just think it's a step above most indie JRPGs, and it's such a fantastic one overall. And if you haven't played it already, definitely give it a try. I mean, was there really any surprise? If you've been following my channel, you probably saw this one coming a mile away. I absolutely love the cast of characters here, and it's the main reason why I love this game so much. You get to know them in such great ways throughout the dungeons and through the various social links. And I think its core theme of facing your true self is such a powerful one for me, and the way you get to know these characters and how they truly embrace their true self was really powerful to me as I played through it. There are fewer games where you get to know characters this in depth. And of course, you have that incredible Persona loop of dungeon crawling, spending time as a high school student, and just hanging out with your friends. And as for its M rating, well, I would say the biggest reasons were probably the sexually suggestive scenes, both in Risei and Kanji's dungeons, where, Risei's dungeon is basically just a strip joint, and Kanji's is like a bathhouse, and he's walking around in pretty much just a towel, and there's quite a few other moments throughout the game that are pretty similar. There's also quite a few scenes with dead bodies as you progress through the murder mystery. It'll just show these dead bodies hanging around town, which can be a little bit disturbing, and obviously there's a lot of harsh language and violence. Overall though, I felt like it was used really effectively to tell a story, definitely well earning the M rating, and altogether this just ends up being my favorite game of all time. Now if you want to watch another great video all about JRPGs, make sure you check out this video right here. And special thanks to Reset Switch, Tyler Kuzawa, and the Miyazaki Man for supporting me over on Patreon. To get exclusive videos and other cool perks, consider supporting me over on patreon.com/thegaming shelf. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.